Reflection. Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. You've been patient. You've been polite. You've swallowed words that wanted to come out like fire. Reflection. You've walked through rooms where whispers followed you like shadows, where doubt sat at the table like an uninvited guest. Tonight, I'm not asking you to whisper back. Reflection. I'm asking you to do something far more devastating to those who bet against you. Silence them, close the door, and never invite them back. Silencing is not about crushing voices. Reflection, it's about creating results so undeniable that noise becomes irrelevant. It's not revenge. That's petty. It's excellence. Reflection, it's the kind of work that makes critics look like echoes in an empty hall. You don't need to explain yourself to people who refuse to believe in you when you were building. Reflection, you don't need permission, applause, or pity. What you need is focus, discipline, and a refusal to be distracted by the small talk of small minds. When they talk, let your life be the rebuttal. Reflection, let your calendar be your answer. Let the hours of quiet, the insistence on craft, the refusal to trade integrity for convenience, let those be the proof. Close the door on excuses. Reflection, close the door on easy comfort. Close the door on every voice that tries to tell you your dream is too big, your timing is wrong, or your story is unimportant. Reflection, there will be nights when the door feels heavy. There will be mornings when doubt scratches at the frame. That's when you do the work anyway. That's when you invite in the hard truths. Reflection, the mentors, the books, the discipline that builds muscle. You owe it to the person you will be tomorrow to protect the person you are becoming today. Reflection, silencing the noise means investing in quiet power. The kind of power that doesn't need to roar to be felt. It moves people because it moves results. It speaks in deliveries, in milestones, reflection in the steady, unstoppable accumulation of wins. And when you finally open that door, you won't do it to parade your defeat of your critics. You'll open it because you know who you are. Reflection. And those critics, they'll stand there stunned, not because you shouted louder, but because you simply turned their noise into background and kept building. So tonight, make the decision. Reflection. Shut the windows on doubt, lock the door on distraction, and plant your feet in work so deep, so fierce that recovery for the naysayers becomes impossible. Reflection. Not because you wish them ill, but because you chose yourself. Stand up, do the work, be relentless. And when they ask how you did it, smile, close the door gently. Reflection, and let the silence speak. When you stop arguing and start producing, something powerful happens inside you. You begin to understand that your energy is a currency. Reflection. And every time you respond to gossip, debate with doubters, or try to justify your dream to people who cannot see it, you are spending that currency on nonsense. Reflection. But when you redirect that same energy into your craft, into practice, preparation, skill building, and execution, you create a force that cannot be denied. Arguments are emotional. Reflection. Results are factual, and facts don't bend for anyone. There will always be people who want to pull you into conversation, confrontation, or explanation. Reflection. They question your moves not because they care, but because your progress threatens the comfort of their stillness. They want you defending yourself instead of building yourself. Reflection. They want you talking instead of transforming. You have to recognize that trap and walk away from it. There is no value in trying to convince small minds about a big vision. Reflection. Vision is not explained, it is demonstrated. When you make the decision to master silence, you also make the decision to master yourself. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Reflection. When you stay quiet, you are not suppressing your voice. You are saving it for the moment that matters. You are choosing focus over frenzy. You are choosing patience over reaction. Reflection. You are choosing to let your actions speak paragraphs while you speak in sentences. And over time, people stop listening to noise and start paying attention to proof. Reflection. Your results will become your voice. Your results will become your defense. Your results will become your introduction before you even enter a room. Reflection. Instead of saying, I promise I can do it, your life will simply say, here it is done. That is a different level of power. That is the level where you no longer chase validation. Reflection. You attract respect, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through quiet, consistent, disciplined execution. So let others waste time debating. Let them stay loud. Reflection, let them stay distracted. You stay locked in. You stay committed. You stay working when the world is sleeping and improving when the world is scrawling. And one day, reflection, when your results stand tall for everyone to see, those same voices that challenge you will have nothing left to say because you mastered the quiet and turned it into a masterpiece. Reflection, excuses are the softest prison ever built, and most people don't even realize they're living inside it. They decorate the walls, get comfortable, reflection, and convince themselves that their limitations are permanent. But every excuse you allow becomes a chain on your ambition. Reflection. Every tired, I'll start tomorrow, life is unfair, or I don't feel like it, is a lock on the door that leads to your potential. Reflection, closing the door on excuses, means you stop negotiating with your weaknesses and start demanding results from yourself. Growth is not born from comfort, it is born from discipline. Reflection, and discipline begins the moment you stop believing your own alibis. You must create an environment where success becomes the only acceptable outcome. Reflection, that means setting standards that don't bend just because your mood changes. Your goals don't care if you're tired. Your dreams don't care if life is complicated. Reflection, your destiny does not wait for you to feel ready. You have to build routines so solid that they stand even on your worst days. When you say you'll wake up at a certain time, you get up. Reflection, when you say you'll practice, you practice. When you say you'll finish, you finish. Not because it's easy, not because you're in the mood, but because you gave your word to yourself. Reflection. And if you can't trust your own word, you can't trust your own future, closing the door on excuses also means rejecting the temptation to blame the world for what you haven't built yet. Yes, reflection. Life is unfair. Yes, other people have advantages you don't. But none of that excuses inaction. There are countless stories of people who had less than you, less support, less money, reflection, less guidance, and still found a way to climb. Why? Because they refused to give oxygen to their excuses. They focused on what they could control, and they worked it relentlessly. Reflection. You must adopt the same mindset, control the controllables, and stop surrendering to obstacles that can be overcome with effort, creativity, and persistence. The moment you kill excuses, reflection, you unlock speed. Progress accelerates because you're no longer stopping to justify delays or protect your comfort. You move with clarity and conviction. Reflection, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. You begin to live by decision instead of emotion, and that's when you become dangerous, not to others, reflection, but to every limitation that once held you. By closing the door on excuses, you create a mental environment where growth becomes natural, discipline becomes automatic, reflection, and success becomes inevitable. Criticism is unavoidable, but how you handle it determines whether it becomes a weapon against you or a weapon for you. Reflection. Most people let criticism break them because they absorb every word emotionally instead of evaluating it intelligently. They hear an insult and take it as identity. Reflection. They hear doubt and treat it as destiny. But those who rise learn to separate the voice from the value. Not every critic deserves a seat in your mind. Reflection. Yet even the harshest words can contain something you can use. A lesson, a weakness revealed, a blind spot exposed. When you shift your perspective, reflection, criticism stops being noise and becomes fuel. It stops being a distraction and becomes direction. There are critics who want to help and critics who want to hurt. Reflection, the first group gives feedback to build you. The second throws opinions to break you. You must learn to filter. Ask yourself, is there truth here that can make me better? If yes, take it, reflection, apply it, and move forward. If not, discard it and keep walking. This mindset turns you into a force because you never lose. Useful criticism helps you grow. Reflection, useless criticism toughens your skin. Either way, you walk away stronger than before. That's power. That's emotional maturity. That's how champions think. Reflection, they don't crumble under judgment. They evolve through it. When you treat criticism as fuel, something transformational happens. You stop fearing people's opinions. Reflection, you stop performing for approval and start performing for progress. You stop needing applause and start respecting discipline. Progress becomes personal, not public. Growth becomes internal. Reflection, not external. You learn to say, hey, thank you for the spotlight. Now watch what I do with it. And when you respond to negativity with improvement, reflection, you win twice. First, by becoming better, and second, by proving that their words never controlled your direction. Understand this truth, critics are proof you are doing something worth noticing. Reflection. No one throws stones at what isn't moving. No one attacks what isn't advancing. The presence of opposition is often the confirmation of elevation. So take every jab, every comment, reflection, every doubt, and convert it into energy. Put it into your craft. Put it into your work. Put it into your next level. Let the very words meant to stop you become the engine that drives you. Reflection. When you use criticism as fuel, you become unstoppable because there is nothing external that can break a person who has learned to turn every strike into strength. Reflection. Your environment is either feeding your future or starving it, and most people never stop long enough to examine who and what they are allowing into their mental space. Reflection. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you surround yourself with people who doubt, drain, distract, or diminish you, you will eventually shrink to the size of that environment. Reflection. Protecting your inner circle means becoming intentional about who gets access to your time, your mind, your energy, and your spirit. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Reflection. Some people only come to eat, not to contribute. And if you keep feeding them, you'll go hungry while they leave full. There are voices that lift you and voices that limit you. Reflection. There are people who see your potential and fan the flame, and there are others who feel threatened by your growth and try to smother it. You must learn to recognize the difference. Reflection. Protecting your inner circle doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means elevating your standards for proximity. If someone constantly belittles your goals, laughs at your ambition, reflection, or convinces you to settle for comfort instead of progress, that person is not a friend of your future. You can care for them, you can respect them, but you cannot allow them influence. Reflection. Growth requires boundaries, and boundaries require courage. When you choose who surrounds you, you are choosing who shapes you. Human beings are absorbent. We absorb language, habits, reflection, attitudes, and expectations without even realizing it. If you spend enough time around negativity, it becomes normal. If you stay around small thinkers, reflection, you begin to shrink your own dreams to fit their comfort. But when you surround yourself with disciplined, driven, forward-minded individuals, you rise to match that frequency. Reflection, you start speaking differently, thinking differently, and acting differently. That's why your inner circle must be built, not inherited. Blood makes you related, reflection, but alignment makes you connected. Protecting your inner circle also means protecting your energy from empty conversations, pointless drama, and people who only show up when they need something. Reflection, you must get comfortable saying now, without guilt, and closing doors without apology. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people are lessons, reflection, not lifelong partners in your journey. As you evolve, your circle will get smaller, but it will get stronger. You will trade quantity for quality, noise for clarity, and attachment for alignment. Reflection. And once you experience the power of a healthy environment, you will never again tolerate one that suffocates your growth. When your circle is right, your mindset sharpens. Your focus deepens. Reflection, your standards rise. You stop needing validation because you're surrounded by people who challenge you, not drain you. They sharpen your iron. They demand excellence. They mirror accountability. Reflection. And with that kind of environment, elevation stops being a struggle. It becomes your natural state. The greatest victories are built in silence, long before the world ever hears your name. Reflection. When you commit to an unseen work ethic, you step into a different category of human beings. The rare few who do not need applause, attention, or instant reward to stay committed. Reflection. Most people want to be seen working instead of actually working. They want the photo, the post, the compliment, the recognition. But the strongest, most unshakable success is built in private. Reflection, where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is handing out praise. That is where character is formed. That is where skill is sharpened. Reflection. That is where the future is built brick by silent brick. Working in silence protects your focus. The moment you start broadcasting your every move, you open the door to judgment, doubt, reflection, distraction, and unnecessary opinions. Everyone suddenly becomes an advisor, a critic, or a commentator on a life they aren't building. But when you stay quiet and let the work lead, reflection, there are no outside voices pulling you off your path. There is only commitment, repetition, and growth. You learn to fall in love with the process itself. The early mornings, the long nights, reflection. The lonely grind, you learn to show up even when nobody asked if you did. And that consistency, that relentless rhythm, becomes your competitive advantage. True confidence is built in the dark. Reflection. When you train alone, when you study alone, when you fight through boredom, fatigue, and doubt without an audience, you develop a different kind of strength. Internal strength, reflection. You stop needing motivation because discipline takes over. You stop waiting for the right moment because you learn that progress itself creates momentum. Reflection. And when you repeatedly choose effort over excuses, something powerful happens. Excellence becomes your baseline. It becomes your identity, not an occasional event. Reflection. Then comes the moment the world finally sees what you've built. To everyone else, it looks sudden, an overnight success, a surprise appearance, a dramatic leap. Reflection. They didn't see the nights you stayed up studying. They didn't see the mornings you trained before sunrise. They didn't see the failures, the doubts, the setbacks you pushed through. Reflection. They just see the results. And results are loud. Results speak in a way words never can. That's why the unseen work matters. Because when the moment arrives, you are not lucky. Reflection, you are prepared. Working in silence also protects your hunger. When you get praised too early, you lose your edge. You settle. You relax. But when the grind is private, you stay hungry. Reflection, you stay humble. And you stay evolving. You don't chase attention. You chase mastery. And mastery is a lifelong pursuit, fueled by the quiet, consistent reflection. invisible labor that average people will never understand. Let them watch the surface. You build the foundation. Let them talk. You train. Let them doubt. You develop. One day, flexion. Your results will introduce you before you ever say a word, and the world will realize that while they were making noise, you were making progress. Flexion. When you finally step back out into the world, it should not be as the same person who went into the grind. Opening the door must be a conscious decision. A moment you choose. Reflection. Not a moment you are forced into. Too many people rush to prove themselves, rush to announce progress, rush to convince the world that they are becoming something. Flexion. But when you open that door too soon, you walk out with unfinished work, half-developed strength, and a fragile identity that can be shaken by the slightest opinion. Reflection. The world doesn't respect potential. It respects completion. So you must stay behind that door until your results are real, your confidence is internal, and your growth is undeniable. Reflection. When your preparation is complete, you don't come out to argue, to defend, or to compete for attention. You come out to show. Reflection. There's a profound difference between someone who needs validation and someone who carries certainty. Validation seeks applause. Certainty carries presence. Validation makes noise. Reflection certainly makes impact. And when you've spent months or years building in silence, sharpening your skills, killing your excuses, protecting your energy, and mastering your work ethic, flexion, you no longer have to explain anything. Your performance becomes your proof. Your success becomes your statement. Your evolution becomes your answer. Reflection. Opening the door is not about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. By the time you stand before the world, you should no longer crave respect. Reflection. You should command it through your results, not your words. You should speak less and demonstrate more. You should move with calm strength, not insecurity. Reflection. Because when your transformation is real, it shows. It shows in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you choose, the way you work. Confidence becomes quiet. Stability becomes visible. Reflection. And the people who once doubted you won't recover, not because you attacked them, but because your success revealed the limits of their thinking and the power of your discipline. Flexion. When you open the door, open it to lead, open it to elevate, open it because you have something to give, something to build, something to create that goes beyond approval or applause. Reflection. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are shaping it. You don't need to convince anyone to believe in you. Your results will do the talking. Let them witness what silence produced. Reflection. Let them watch what discipline created. Let them see the version of you they never expected, the version you built piece by piece, night after night, when nobody was watching. Reflection. When the door opens, you don't return as an echo of who you were. You return as a voice, a force, a standard. And by the time they realize how far you've risen, flexion, it will be too late for them to catch you, because while they were busy talking, you were busy becoming. So now the choice is yours. Reflection. You can keep giving energy to voices that never wanted to see you rise, or you can shut the door, lock it, and build in silence until there is nothing left for them to question. Flexion. Let your work be the roar they never saw coming. Let your transformation be the answer to every doubt, every insult, every limitation they tried to place in your life. Stand tall. Stand focused. Reflection. Stand unshakable. You owe nothing to the noise of yesterday. You owe everything to the greatness waiting on the other side of discipline and destiny. From this moment forward, flexion. Move with intention, speak with purpose, and build with fire in your soul. When the time is right, step out and let your results announce you. And when they finally see what you've become, reflection, they won't recover, because your silence will have spoken louder than their voices ever could. Close the door. Do the work. Become the storm. Flexion. And let the world witness the power of a life driven by purpose, not permission.